Namaha. Om Shri Matre 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 Namaha.
वक्रतुण्ड महाकाय सूर्यकोटिसमप्रभ निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। ॐ गणपतये नमः। ॐ गणपतये नमः। ॐ गणपतये नमः। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ
या देवी सर्वभूतेषु श्रद्धारूपेण संस्थिता नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः। या देवी सर्वभूतेषु श्रद्धारूपेण संस्थिता नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः। या देवी सर्वभूतेषु श्रद्धारूपेण संस्थिता नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः। Namaste. Welcome to Kaivalya Yoga Gurukulam or KYG. Thank you so much for joining this Satsang. As always, we are so grateful to be able to host this Satsang. We do this with great reverence and humility, knowing that this is the study of the highest kind, study that really matters to our inner core, something that is so vital to our very existence. Understanding the secret of who we are, what energies, what divinity lies within us, and awakening that divinity so that we can live our life fully. In the last class, give me 1 second, let me start the slides. In the last class, we had entered the Sixth Avarna. The sixth avarana is the one that is shining at this point. And so this is where we were. We had completed, it also had 10 triangles, and we completed 4 of them. Rather than saying completed, we began to understand 4 of those triangles. Let me quickly go through them. The first one was Sarvagnai, the energy that comes to us from all directions, all knowledge. It teaches us to keep our mind open and alive to learning. There is nothing outside of divinity, no subject is outside spirituality. Geography and chemistry, mathematics and physics are all explaining some element, some part, some aspect of this divine creation, as much as dance and singing and music and photography. Even IT is just a combination of bits and bytes, that is 1 and zeros. The mystery of coding eventually comes back to the magic of 1 and 0, that is the sum total of these triangles, 1 and 0, 10 triangles. So nothing is outside spirituality. So when we keep our minds open to learning and accept all kinds of knowledge, then the Shakti within us awakens to help us grasp the knowledge at a speed that even surprises us. Then we come across the second one with this Sarva Shakti, all kinds of power, physical strength, mental power, mental grip, mental determination. Dhrida Nishchayaha, like it is described in the Bhagavad Gita. Where does Dhrida Nishchaya come? What is Dhrida Nishchaya? It's tremendous willpower, unshakable willpower, sankalpa, a will. Where does that come from? That comes from this kind of Shakti that needs to be awakened. And this Shakti awakens when we open ourselves to all kinds of knowledge. We learn how to sharpen our mind, how to train our brain, how to increase the cognition, the memory, the brain-derived neurotropic factors, if you will. How do you increase them so the brain continues to function no matter what our age? So Sarva Shakti, physical powers, mental powers, and spiritual energy and strength. Then we studied and touched upon Sarva Aishwarya Pradayini. Sarva Aishwarya. Aishwarya is sovereignty, a sense of calmness, that nothing affects your self-esteem. You know that you are from the highest. You know you're a child of God. You know you're a ray of the sun. And therefore nobody can, no circumstances can, no person can ever cause you to doubt that. We are all, each one of us, a very unique being existing on this earth. Even science cannot refute that, right? Our DNA is exquisite. No one else has exactly the same DNA as you have or as I have. And so why don't we use that and understand that there is none like me in this universe? That deep understanding, and that understanding allowing itself to express itself through your thoughts, words, and deeds, is sovereignty over all. That is Aishwarya, the true Aishwarya, knowing your divine self. And then the fourth one we touched was the Jnanamayi, Sarva Jnanamayi. The first one was Sarva Jnanaye, and this is Jnanamayi. We talked about how the importance, one is knowing knowledge, the other one is allowing that wisdom. Knowledge becomes wisdom when we begin to embody them, when we begin to practice them, when that knowledge that is assimilated, the knowledge that is contemplated upon, Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. So I listen to something, I contemplate upon it, and then that contemplation becomes very clear. I begin to absorb certain values from that contemplation, some learning from that contemplation. And then automatically that begins to percolate through my thoughts, through my words, and through my deeds. So then it becomes Jnanamaya, that you begin to embody what you totally believe. Then your thought, word, and deed becomes one and the same. Baba would say, Manas ekam, vachas ekam, karman ekam, mahatmanam. The one who is great is one who has integrity, oneness in thought, word, and deed. And this Shakti, this energy is within us. She is dormant. And therefore when we contemplate on this Devi, on this energy principle, she awakens. She helps us to to bring that knowledge from within us into action. So we begin to embody that wisdom. And guess what? What happens when we embody that wisdom? When we begin to take that one step towards divinity, the Divine Mother takes 1,000 steps and comes to us. And that is shown in the fifth triangle. Remember, we go around as we do the puja to the Sri Chakra, as we go around the temple. So when we go clockwise, we are experiencing each of these in that sequential order, if you will. There was a question, it just comes to my mind before I go to that triangle. There was a question about going clockwise when the earth is going counterclockwise. Why are we rotating clockwise? Is there a significance? Yes, of course. You see, when you are going clockwise, the object that you are going around seems to go counterclockwise, and therefore you are actually meeting face to face with the divine energies as you cross them like this. If we both go counterclockwise along with the earth, then we have to turn to look at them. We don't face. So when you're going around the temple, you see the deity that you're going to come across, and then you bow to the deity, and the deity goes and you go to the other deity. And thus the earth's counterclockwise rotation and we going clockwise is to engage the energy of the earth. So we begin to receive the energy as we counter that with the clockwise direction. So there is a great meaning in that clockwise rotation. Anyway, that was just an answer to a question that was raised in one of the chats in perhaps the previous satsang. Nevertheless, let's go to the fifth triangle now. When we embody that wisdom, which Devi now begins to become alive? All these are dormant energies within us. Okay, they are not coming from outside. They're all within us. And this divine play, this divine mother brings out all her energies. So look at this beautiful one that arises now. Sarva Vyadhi Vinashinyai. All illnesses are destroyed. All illnesses are destroyed. I paused because it is worth pausing and meditating on, wait a minute, what does that even mean? All. Vinashini, she destroys them. Destroys, there is no chance of illnesses coming back. She destroys illnesses. When you begin to embody the wisdom, when you begin to practice, and we don't have to be perfect, that is the beauty of this. Take one step, Baba would say. Baba embodied all of these energies. He was the very embodiment of Mahabhattarika. And so anything coming from him is directly coming from the creation, the source itself. So he would say, take one step towards God. Just take one step. And he would take 1,000 steps and come towards you. So one doesn't have to be perfect in spirituality to earn this magical grace. The very fact that we begin to embody this grace, this divine Shakti opens. I know what some of you are thinking, if not all. Wait a minute. I have been doing meditation for so many years. I have been doing japa for so many years. I have lived a good life for so many years. I have taken more than that one step. And yet, I am not experiencing this destruction of all illnesses. I experience aging. I'm experiencing all of this. And therefore, let's take a deep breath and pause. There are other triangles that we just crossed. Sarva Shaktimai, Sarva Shaktiya. The Sarva Shaktiya gives us strength of the body, strength of the mind, and all of that. There is a knowledge that is associated with that. That's why there was knowledge, there was strength, there was Aishwarya, then there was embodying it, practicing those. So we know what is eating right food, right? We know what to avoid, what not to avoid. We fall prey to that. And when we fall prey to food because of addiction, not because of hunger or anything, but because of addiction, when we eat the wrong kinds of food, when we don't follow the basic lifestyle that is conducive to our growth and health, then we are not embodying this. And therefore, the fourth one, which was Sarvajnanamaya, when we begin to embody that wisdom, which you already have, right? Like for a simple thing, like don't eat 5 or 6 hours before going to bed. We don't. I know there are practices where we eat at 10 o'clock in the night, 11 o'clock in the night, and then directly go to bed because we have stuffed ourselves with so much carbs, we go to bed. Now, whatever meditation you do, whatever japa you do, could perhaps give you some form of peace, but it is not going to destroy all these illnesses, because that step that you took is not even a single step. That single step is one step of holistic lifestyle, a holistic spirituality. That is number one. Number two, another way to look at it is, let us go back to that slide, because I want people to see that. Sarva Vyadhi Vinashanye. What is the cause of illnesses? What is the cause of all illnesses? Is there one cause for all illnesses? What is the biggest roga, the one illness that is causing all other illnesses? We are not talking only physical illnesses, mental illnesses, and spiritual illnesses, ignorance, right? So physical illness, mental illness, such as depression, low self-esteem, and this and that, all of that. And then you have the spiritual. So illnesses across the board. Is there one cause? And if so, what is that cause? That cause is ajnana. And it is not me saying this. It is from the Vedanta itself. And Bhagavan himself has said this in many discourses. Ajnanam. Ajnaname pedda rogam, he would say. The biggest disease today prevailing man is ajnana. Ignorance. If there is a close word that can come to ajnana, it is lack of wisdom, the ultimate wisdom. And therefore we will call it ignorance at this point. Ignorant of the ultimate reality. Ignorant of who you are. The real cause is that. You might say, oh, come on, give me a break. How does that even relate to this? I'm having a cough and cold, or I'm falling sick. How is that related to I'm not aware of who am I? How do you relate the two? Think of it for a moment. Because I am not aware of who I am, I don't function from the stage. I don't think from that platform. My actions are not from that state of abundance, of omnipresence and omniscience, which I truly am. Rather, all my thoughts are based on what will happen next. Who will tell me what? What will others think of me? What will, how if I lose my job, how do I pay my bills? So it's based on fear, survival, social recognition, social status. And so what I'm nurturing around my definition of who I think I am, it is all about fear, false sense of status, a false sense of recognition. Everything seems to be very superficial. And then I'm functioning from that. How can health come out of that functioning? So it is very natural for the body to decay much earlier than it should. And it will slowly go into this path of disease. And whatever disease it is will manifest based on, if I get depressed because of some stress, why does that even happen? If I truly am aware of my higher self, I wouldn't have done any action that would even bring me to the state of receiving stress. And at that state, you will know that you are the one who orchestrates every event in your life. You will not play the victim game and say, I don't know, this just happened to me. How can I be blamed? There is nothing to blame here, but it is the fact that every action, everything that happens to in our lives, we are responsible at some level. Consciously, unconsciously, subconsciously, we have sown the seeds of all of that. And the seeds of illnesses are sown. Why? Because we lack that kind of knowledge. It is not taught to us anymore. It was in the Vedic civilization, thousands of years ago, every child was introduced to the highest wisdom. They were sent to a Gurukulam where they lived with these enlightened masters, learned the highest principles of life, and then they were sent out. You do what you want. One became Sudama, one became Krishna. Both were enlightened. One became a king, one remained a poor Brahmin. But look at what Sudama achieved because of that wisdom. He was able to be blessed with all the wealth in the world. The story goes, and I'm not going to that story, but because of that basic foundation was laid. But today, how do we do? We say, oh, that all we will learn it later. That's not important for survival. Today, we have to be, it's a fast world, communication, what is that? A competitive world. We have to survive. We have to succeed. We don't have time to go into who am I and understand how is that going to help me. Guess what? That is what is really going to help you. If you look at any leader, knowingly or unknowingly, that leader has tapped into that tremendous resource within himself or herself. And because they were able to tap into that resource, which is infinite in its capacity to give, they were able to do what they did. And that is what destroys all illnesses. When we take steps towards wiping ignorance, that one step towards wiping ignorance, and we begin to embody that wisdom, we begin to transform based on that one step, then the divine takes 1,000 steps and helps us get to that path where eventually all diseases of all kinds will be destroyed. Tirumala writes this beautifully in Tirumandiram, how the body itself, the physical body itself, has the capacity to be transformed into a divine body. So these sciences exist. It's open for you and me to try and practice and experience it if possible. And therefore, these energies become dormant in our body. No amount of praying and calling out to the divine will elicit a response when our actions are not following that prayer. Anyway, so this dormant energy not only destroys physical illnesses, mental illnesses and all of that, she goes to the very core and begins to remove the greatest disease of all, namely ajnana, lack or absence of wisdom. That's why the fourth one was about wisdom, embodying the wisdom. And then the fifth says, when you embody that wisdom, then all this vyadi, vinashini, then she awakens, another Shakti awakens and says, all right, now that they are on the path, let me help them in their sadhana and remove all of that. That is the beauty of Sarva Vyadi Vinashini. Then comes the sixth one, another beautiful Shakti that opens the door to yet another beautiful richness. And this is Sarva Adhara Swarupaya. Sarva Adhara Swarupaya. Sarva Adhara becomes Sarvadhara. Sarva means all. Adhara Swarupaya. You begin to awaken that energy from within that is the basis of everything that you see and experience. Where is that energy within you? That is why I very honestly believe that we are the ones who orchestrate our lives. Difficulties, illnesses, or happy moments and abundance, everything is orchestrated by us. Because that energy, that's the basis of all experiences, all of the people whom I draw into my life, all the experiences I draw into my life, all of that I see here, the basis of all of this, Sarva Adhara, all Adhara of everything. Whatever I see, whatever I smell, whatever I taste, whatever I listen, the Adhara is this Shakti, Sarva Adhara Swarupaya. This Devi who is in this triangle, the 10th triangle, 7th Avarana, 6th Avarana. That is the beauty of this. Then you begin to respect everything, every creature. And then you accept, if a particular creature is harmful, you accept that as nature of that creature. That creature is not bad. That is the nature. There is a particular experience that soul is undergoing, and therefore you will respect it. You will maintain distance if it's going to cause harm to you. There's a beautiful story of Sant Eknath, which I heard when I was a child, and it has really stayed with me. I love that story. He goes as the story goes, he goes to the temple tank for his morning bathing in the tank or the ghat, if you will. So he takes his disciple with him, and then he goes and he takes a dip in the waters. There is a scorpion that is fallen in the water, and it's trying to, struggle to come out. And so as he sees the scorpion struggling, he puts his hand out, or he puts a small leaf, and he tries to rescue the scorpion. And the scorpion stings him, because the scorpion is completely in fear. He doesn't even know who's helping, who's harming at that point, right? Fear sometimes clouds us so much. We don't know anything at that point. And so the scorpion stings him, and he yells in pain. And he comes off, and he sits, and he calms himself down. Then he goes into the water. Again he sees a scorpion. Again he tries to help. Again it stings him. And it happens twice or thrice. And the disciples watching and saying, "What happened to my master? Has he lost his mind? I mean, the scorpion is stinging him. Why can't he just leave it alone? Or why can't he just kill it? It's harmed him." So he asks, "Master, why don't you kill the scorpion? It's harmed you 3 times. You're trying to do your best to help, and in turn that is harming you." Then Sant Eknath says, "I cannot harm because it is not my nature to harm. It is the nature of a scorpion to sting. So it is simply doing what its nature is. It's not going outside its nature. Its nature is to sting. If somebody catches it, my nature is not to kill. My nature is to rescue. My nature is to help. I am doing my nature. He is doing his nature. That is part of creation." I think that story stuck to me as I heard the story for the very first time in Mumbai, Maharashtra, because there's so many wonderful saints there, and such great stories that come out of their lives and teachings. And this was one of them. I love that. So when we go back to that slide and look at that Sarva Adhara, she is the basis of everything. She is that wild tiger. She is the poisonous cobra. She is that horrible stinging bee that could harm you. And she's also the rose flower. She's also that little smile on a baby's face. She is that baby as well. She is the basis of a person who you may not like at all, and she is also the basis of someone you love most dearly. Everything is part of that oneness. When we begin to understand that, appreciate that, because of all the wisdom that has come from the earlier triangles, then this Devi awakens, and she reveals to you that she truly is the one who is the basis of all this creation. She is the Shakti that emerges from the Shiva Tandava, as the Bhairava does his Kala Bhairava dance. Bhima Vikramam Prabhum Vichitra Tandava Priyam. This mighty, valorous Shiva, we are doing the 3rd verse right now, we are recording Kala Bhairavam. Vichitra Tandava Priyam, he loves his cosmic dance. So as he is doing that dance, creation is emanating there. There is an intelligence that is orchestrating. That's what he is. He is the cosmic intelligence. And so as he's orchestrating this divine creation with the mountains and the volcanoes and the oceans and the tsunamis, at the same time the green grass, the beautiful sunset, the beautiful warmth of the early morning sun, and all the 4 seasons, and children laughing, and love and affection, and all kinds of energies come out from that dance. And all those energies are the Shakti. She carries all of this and manifests it, so that his dance continues unperturbed, and he stays in bliss, knowing that the Shakti is taking care of all the effects of his dance. So she is the Sarva Dhara Swarupai. There is absolutely no doubt about it. Believe in it and begin to practice it. But doesn't mean you should go and hug a snake. There is another beautiful story that comes from my mind, and I think I must share that. You probably heard this. A Buddhist teacher tells his student, sometimes the story is attributed to Buddha himself, but I don't know. Nevertheless, the Buddhist teacher tells the student, God is in everything, like we are just talking about. He's the basis of everything. There is nothing outside of him. Every creature is an embodiment of his Shakti. And so the disciple very sincerely listens to the story and says, from now on, I'm really going to put it to practice. And so he starts walking down the road with his master. Then suddenly there is commotion. In front of him, there is a mad elephant, a Mahut sitting on that elephant. The elephant has gone into rut, as they say. And so the elephant is rushing, and the Mahut is not able to control. He's shouting at everybody, please clear the way, clear the way, clear the way. This disciple says, this is my test. The elephant is also God. God is not going to kill me. So he stands right in the middle of the road. The Mahut keeps shouting at him, please move away, sir, move away, move away. And he just stands. And the elephant flings him, takes him in his trunk and flings him. Very bruised later, he comes back to the master. And the master is laughing. He said, what happened to you? Did you lose your mind? We all cleared. Why didn't you clear? And he's very upset, bruised and humiliated. This disciple tells the teacher, what? You told me God is in everything. So I wanted to practice that. And look what that mad elephant did to me. How can God do that to me? How could he hurt me through that elephant? The Guru smiled. He said, the God was in the elephant. Yes. The God was also in the Mahut. God was telling you, clear the way. But you chose not to listen to the God who was speaking to you directly in your language, so clearly. It was your ego that decided to exhibit your idea of what you think or where you think God is. You missed the point of God being everywhere. So the Mahut was also God. The elephant was also God. So in our understanding of this, in our comprehension of this, we have to appreciate things and people as they are without expecting them to change for the better or change for the worse or anything. Because every soul goes through its own journey of seeking, of understanding. Ravana went through that. The avatar's own relative Krishna was a Rakshasa. Krishna's uncle Kansa was a Rakshasa, he had demonic qualities in him. He was the avatar's own uncle. And yet, Krishna allowed him to search and understand reality in his own manner. And when time came to punish him, he punished him. Right? And thus it is that every soul has a path. We cannot force upon our faith on somebody else or expect somebody else to behave the way we like. Life would become very boring if we are all exactly alike. We all like the same God. We all like the same music. We all like the same chant. I think it would be boring. I think the variety, that brings magic in life. And therefore, every circumstance, every difficult asana in a yogic practice, every difficult period in life, every difficult person that we come across has this Shakti teaching you something. Listen, pay attention, learn, and if necessary, maintain distance. But don't judge as good or bad, because when you do that, you are blocking the idea of recognizing that Sarva Adhara Swarupaye, this being is in all beings. This one is the basis of all beings, all things. And when we begin to understand that, she begins to awaken within us and truly gives us that Vishwarupa Darshan. What beautiful learnings come out of these very simple, straightforward, direct to the point names. Each of these names are powerful to meditate, to chant, to contemplate upon. And then comes the next one. Sarva Papa Harai. So you see, when we understand the basis is everything is she, then all of the sins are destroyed. Papa Harai. Papa Harai. There is a defeating of the sins. Defeated. Then if the sins come up again she will defeat it. There is constant war, if you will, and she constantly keeps defeating all the idea of sins. What does that mean here at this point? When we understand that she is the basis of everything, Sarva Adhara, then we will realize she's also the basis of my actions. She's the basis of my thoughts. She's the basis of my words. So I begin to become more mindful to make sure every thought, every word, every deed is an offering to this divine principle. And when that begins to happen, where is room for any sin? The greatest of our sins is what? What is the greatest sin? The greatest sin, just like we had one cause, one illness that causes all the illnesses across all body, mind, spirit, there is one sin that causes all other sins. What is that sin? The sin of doership. Doership. That I am the doer. I own my actions. I own my thoughts. I like some, then I feel guilty of some. When I own my thoughts, then I become responsible to it at some level, or whatever level it is. When I say I am Sunder, then I own all Sundar's thoughts. I own all Sundar's actions. I own everything. When I own that, then I am caught into this never-ending cycle of action and reaction, action and reaction, action and reaction. But when I realize she's the one who's working through me, I am but an instrument of thy peace. I am an instrument. There is an energy that is flowing through me. And all I need to do is to get out of the way. When I begin to understand that, then I stop taking ownership of my actions. I just allow the energy to flow. Then there is no room for sins because I am not the owner. So I don't face any sins, and therefore all sins get destroyed. That is the beauty of the Sarva Papa Haraye. When I give up the ownership, then all sins are destroyed. When you give up the ownership, you will never do anything that is based of ignorance, because you will not be ignorant anymore. And therefore there will be no harm done. None of that will happen. There will be only wisdom that will flow through you, because when you say I am the doer, when Sunder says Sunder is a doer and claims that doership, sticks to that doership, sticks to that identity, and commits the first sin, that's called the sin of separation. In the Law of Miracles, a very beautiful book written, the esoteric version of the Bible and the teachings of Jesus Christ, the Course in Miracles. That's the name of the book. The essence of that is the very first sin was the sin of separation. That means I considered myself separate from God. That's it. That is the first sin. And everything else is a product of that original sin. Sin is used in a particular context, right? It could be the biggest lie that I've told myself, that I am Sunder. Once that lie is told, then everything else becomes, how can the truth be practiced when the very foundation is based on lie? So think about that. This is the kind of depth we have to open our minds to. We may not get all the answers right away, but we will begin to awaken her. She awakens, and then she begins to destroy these sins one at a time. In other words, she'll bring in that knowledge which will destroy all the sins. Ultimately, just as the greatest illness was ignorance, jnana will destroy, wisdom will destroy all idea of sins, all idea of merit and sins, and all of that will go. Above everything, there'll be no place for guilt. I've told this so many times. Baba would get so angry when we would say, I'm sorry, please Swami, I'm sorry. With me personally, I can say this. He got so angry once, he tore my letter and threw it at my face. What is this sorry? Past is past, forget it. You learned a lesson, good, don't repeat it. What else do you want me to do? And so there was that. The anger was because he was like, why are you going on about that? Because every time you say that, in the very presence of one who says you're God, if you go and tell him, I'm sorry. It is directly up, and it's an antithesis to what he stood for, the very embodiment of love and omniscience and omnipresence, and he was reminding us of that. And we get caught in this, I am sorry, I hope I'm not making a mistake, I hope I'm doing correct. And we build a low self-esteem. That is sin upon sin upon sin. In other words, we get more and more caught into this vicious cycle. We need to break through. So we awaken her. Sarva Papa Haraya. You destroy all these sins. Free me from this guilt. Free me from this idea of separation. Awaken the wisdom. Sarva Gnaya will come. Sarva Jnana Maya will come. Sarva Shakti Maya will come. Sarva Aishwarya Pradaya will come. All of them will come. And when they all awaken, that's why I said these Shaktis are not watertight compartments. They work hand in hand. There's harmony. They all awaken. There is a beautiful dance. Remember, these are all energies constantly in motion. And then this Shakti also awakens. Then all this idea of sins and doership, everything begins to vanish. And then comes the eighth one. And that is Sarvanandamaya. Look at that. How beautifully they've brought us to that place. When all sins are vanished, when all illnesses are vanished. There is another thing about illnesses. When Ramana Maharshi had the throat, he didn't identify himself. By then his wisdom had reached the peak. He never identified himself with the body, and therefore that illness did not affect him. So if you would ask him, are you sick? He would say, who is sick? I am not sick. I never was, I never will be. Aksharam Niramayam. That is what Kala Bhairava in the third verse it will say very beautifully. Aksharam Niramayam, devoid of illnesses, imperishable is the Bhairava energy. So there is another way to understand that illnesses as well. So when you begin to experience all of this, you will be filled only with bliss. There is Ananda, like I've said it earlier as well. Ananda does not have an antonym. Sukha is happiness. That has an antonym, sadness. But Ananda is a word that really doesn't even have an English word, but the closest word you'll find across all books and translations and transliterations is bliss. And therefore I used it. But I use it because I don't have another English word that can explain Ananda. Ananda is staying in a state of perpetual harmony with the highest self. And the experience that comes out of that is Ananda. That is why Anandamaya Kosha is the final sheath. Even that is transcended ultimately. But that sheath is that is the Anandamaya Kosha. So Sarvanandamaya, across all sheaths, across all dimensions, you'll be filled with that bliss. Where is that bliss? Within us. She is there, dormant. Within us, she also awakens to give us that taste. And we all experience these awakenings, right? They're not so dormant that they don't even speak. We would be dead if they were all so dormant. But they're all dormant. They're not dead. And therefore, because they are dormant, they do give us these out of their grace. There are times when we chant bhajans or kirtans or when we meditate, there are times we get a taste of all of this. All these Shaktis come and show them and show their grace. Tease with us, play with us, saying, hey, I'm within you, I'm giving you these experiences. But through continuous sadhana, as Baba would call it, constant integrated awareness, constant, an awareness of all of these which is integrated into our daily life, not separate. I can't be hurting somebody and doing something very petty and then talking about all of this. It just won't match. It just won't match. I could be a scholar, I could earn name and fame, but I will not earn anything. It is the same thing. I could be talking to my children about this and that, but I don't practice it. It won't go across because these dormant energies stay dormant. But they become alive, then every word of yours reaches. Because then you speak out of experience. You become an instrument of the divine. The divine takes over. Sarvanandamaya. And then comes the ninth one. Sarvaraksha Swarupinye. Sarvaraksha Swarupinye. Sarvaraksha Swarupinye. Sarvaraksha Swarupinye. That means there is protection at all levels. The idea of decay and death, the idea of losing something, all of that will go. You will feel a sense of protection, and that protection you will say, whatever happens, I know I am protected. A sense of deep security prevails. In meditation, when you get the taste of the Turiya Avastha, when you get the taste of the real you that transcends time and space, when you get, oh gosh, I've always been that. I've had so many lifetimes and I've always been this. And you identify yourself with that witness, you become that, you're like, and that realization, you come back and then it changes you completely. That is the sense of protection. And whatever else, it comes and goes, people come and go in your life, near and dear ones come and go, events come and go, objects come and go, situations come and go, but you feel protected, a sense inside when you go deep within. Why fear when I am here? You hear that voice. You feel a sense of protection. Otherwise, you will be constantly in a state of fear. Once Baba wanted to teach me, because I thought I had conquered fear, because I said, if Baba would appear me in a vision, why would I be scared? I would be enthralled. I would be in bliss, right? And I was about to speak on a stage on an occasion of Dashara, and Baba held my hand behind the stage, and there were huge curtains. So he went in between the curtains, holding my hand, and there was about 10 feet of these curtains overlap, literally. So at one point, there was no light ahead, there was no light behind. It was a very brief moment, okay? But at that moment, he held my hand and he paused instead of going through that dark patch of that curtain where one curtain is overlapping and stepping onto the stage to face thousands of people. He paused there with holding my hand. He looked, he said, Bhayamuntunda, are you afraid? Bhayanga unda, something like that he asked me. Bhayapadutunava, correct. Bhayapadutunava, are you afraid? And guess what I said? Yes, Swami, I am afraid. Who's holding my hand? My Sadguru. So there is a philosophy in my head thinking, oh, if Swami is there with me, I have nothing to be afraid of. If somebody would ask you, if Swami were to hold your hand, you would say, yes, but why doesn't you hold my hand? I would never be afraid. Guess what? It is possible. Like I experience that. And I remind myself every time, that it keeps me humble and my feet on the ground, because I thought I won't be afraid. But at that moment, I was afraid. Why? Because I truly did not understand this idea of protection. I truly did not understand who is the one that is seeking protection. And therefore, that lack of ignorance displayed itself at that moment, even though God was holding my hand. Even though that lack of clarity, that lack of experience, and only an intellectual conceptualization, if you will, at that young, immature age, showed me that that is not enough. And therefore, even though I had somebody whom I considered God walking on earth holding my hand, I looked at him and told him to his face, yes, I am scared. And then laughingly Baba said, why fear when I am here? And he let me go. And that taught me such a powerful lesson which I will never forget. So, Sarva Raksha Swarupinye is that energy that she will rise when we begin to truly understand that there is a part of us that will never get destroyed. And that is the core. That is the core of who we are. The real me never was born, never will die. There is nothing like illness and disease for me. And when I begin to open my door to that understanding, she awakens and she protects us with that knowledge. That knowledge gets protected. We never lose that. Once you experience that, you will never lose it. It will never go out. You will never forget those kind of experiences. Why? Because she awakens and protects that memory, if you will. And when that is protected, then everything else you feel a sense of deep protection. And the last one, in this beautiful energy circle, Sarvepsita Phalapradaya. Sarvepsita. Ipsita is, as we learned in the Bhairava Ashtakam, second verse, Ipsita is anything that is constantly sought after. So desires is one way to look at it. The idea of wanting something, that is Ipsita. All of that goes away. All of that, you feel a sense of fulfillment. not feel, you will actually experience a sense of complete fulfillment in all those desires when these Shaktis awaken. Before going to Baba, I wanted to act. I wanted to join the film industry. I loved the idea of acting and directing and all of that. Guess what? When I went to Baba, in the 15 years I spent, there were so many opportunities he gave me to write the plays from scratch, change the plays. He gave me a play that he himself had written in the childhood. He says, improve on it, do it better. And so he gave us a chance to enact that play. I was part in that play. I was acting it. I was directing it. The joy that I wanted, Ipsita, there's some craving silly craving that I had when I didn't know where my life would take me. All of that got fulfilled. I didn't ask. All desires will get. Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all of these shall be added unto you. That is the beauty of the statement. So sarvepsita phalapradaya. Sarva, all kinds of desires that you ever had sought will find fulfillment. Will find fulfillment. When I go to these homes of devotees who, when I attend retreats, they take me in their fancy cars. Some of them have Teslas, some of them have Range Rovers or whatever it is, all of that. So all the silly desires I may have entertained, I wish I get a chance to drive this or ride this. All of that is fulfilled. All of that is fulfilled. That's the beauty of this. All we have to do is seek the highest wisdom, the highest principle, the highest idea of oneness and unity and love. And then all the other things begin to fall in place. And then you look around only to say, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Sarve sita. But if you sit back and say, oh no, I want this to be fulfilled, then I will do this. I want this to be fulfilled, then I will do this. Then you will be waiting for this. When this gets fulfilled, you have a finger ready to point to another one, because that's how you're training yourself. When that gets fulfilled, instead of saying thanks, you will have your finger trained to point to another one. And thus we are going to God with a laundry list of things that we want first to be satisfied. And that laundry list will never stop. Will never stop. Rather, if we say, you come to me, all of this I leave it at your feet, you come to me, then every other desires gets solved. That is what Arjuna chose Krishna. And Krishna said, if I come, I'm not going to fight, you're not going to get my army, nor my riches, nor anything. I'm just simply going to be a charioteer. Arjuna said, yes, I want you simply to be my charioteer. Be by my side. That's enough for me. And Krishna's entire wealth, entire army went to the other side. Guess who won the battle? Arjuna won. And Krishna never helped him. Of course, he gave him the knowledge, but in the war, right? So the beauty of this sarvepsita phalapradaya is when you awaken these Shaktis and all these desires, and that experience, that understanding, that comprehension, that feeling that all my desires are being fulfilled is a Shakti who awakens within you. She's also a Shakti. She awakens. Then you'll realize, wait a minute, I don't even have to ask. Even before I ask, my wildest dreams seem to get fulfilled in some form. And thus, as we get closer to the core, more and more of these very powerful revealing energies of Devi begins to awaken and begins to empower and enrich our lives. And thus it is with all these 10 triangles. Let us therefore offer a simple bhajan at the end of this journey into this avarana. At a personal level, I feel I've gone through this too fast, but I'm just giving you an idea for you to think. Take your own time in each avarana. This is not a race. Let it take a whole lifetime. Let it take 9 years to complete 9 avaranas. Meditate on each one. Assimilate that into your action, into your life. Watch your life change like magic. Self-realization, self-actualization, experiencing God, and all of this that you're searching for begins to happen in this dimension as well as in all the other dimensions. You become aware that there's so much more to explore, so much more to enjoy. And therefore, with that deep yearning, a sense of deep surrender and reverence. We bring this avarana and we leave this avarana to enter the next one. But as we do this, let us offer this small bhajan and bring this satsang to an end. Thank you as always for joining. Om Shri Matre Namaha. 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 Om Shri Matre Namaha.
Om Shri Matre Namaha. Om Shri Matre Namaha. Om Shri Matre Namaha. Om Shri Matre Namaha. Om Shri Matre Namaha.
Vaishnavi Ma Varahi Ma. Vaishnavi Ma Varahi Ma. Vishveshwari Ma Vani Ma. Vishveshwari Ma Vani Ma. Vaishnavi Ma Varahi Ma. Vaishnavi Ma Varahi Ma. Om Shri Matre Namaha. Om Shri Matre Namaha.
Om Shri Matre Namaha. Om Shri Matre Namaha. Om Shri Matre Namaha. Om Shri Matre Namaha.
Vaishnavi Ma Varahi Ma. Vaishnavi Ma Varahi Ma. Satya Swarupini Sai Ma. Sai Ma. Sai Ma. Satya Swarupini Sai Ma. Satya Swarupini Sai Ma. Shanti Pradayini Santoshi Ma. Prashanti Pradayini Santoshi Ma. Satya Swarupini Sai Ma. Shanti Pradayini Santoshi Ma. Prashanti Pradayini Santoshi Ma. Om Shri Matre Namaha. Om Shri Matre Namaha.
Om Shri Matre Namaha. Om Shri Matre Namaha. Om Shri Matre Namaha. Om Shri Matre Namaha. Om Shri Matre Namaha. Om Shri Matre Namaha. Om Shri Matre Namaha. Om Shri Matre Namaha.
Samastalokaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Samastalokaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Samastalokaha Sukhino bhavantu. May all the beings in all the worlds be happy. Jai bolo pavan sut hanuman ki jai. सियावर रामचंद्र की जय। सतगुरु साईनाथ महाराज की जय। नमः पार्वती पतये हर हर महादेव।
ओम शांति शांति शांति।